We're in the presidential palace in Manila, where it's just over 100 days into the presidency of Rodrigo Duterte. In an exclusive first interview since he was sworn in, we talked to him about his controversial war on drugs and foreign policy, including deteriorating relations with the United States and potentially warming relations with China.
The President of the Republic of the Philippines, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, talks to Al Jazeera. Mr. President, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera. It's been a tumultuous start of a presidency for you, full of controversy, particularly about the war on drugs. But first, let's start with your background. You were raised in a politically inclined family. Your father was a governor. Your mother was a freedom fighter during the reign of former President Ferdinand Marcos. How has that affected your outlook?
Profoundly, I would say. I grew up in an environment of politics, and as politicians, we tend to you go by the issues of the day, the big ones that would affect the conditions, economy and all, especially the political issues. And my father was governor for 10 years almost. But when he died, I was then a prosecutor. And when the revolution came, my mother was one of the stalwarts of the opposition against Marcos.
You also had some difficult times when you were younger as a child. You have revealed that you were sexually abused by a priest. Has that shaped your beliefs? Has that helped to shape who you are now?
Yes. To a large extent, actually. It's what you get along the way that shapes your character, especially. And even at that time, even your politics and how you look at the world and how you should assess them by the standards that you have used in school and in growing up, the things that you pick up along the way, you said, it sorts of a blend into a collation. It blends into something which is can be said forming your own values in life.
Let's talk about the war on drugs now. 3,500 people have been killed so far. It seems like the whole world is talking about it at the moment. The Philippines seems to have so many problems. So why launch what is a brutal war on drugs?
Because the sheer number of people contaminated will pull my country down. It will destroy the next generation of Filipinos. You know, these lives lost, some of them were lost during legitimate encounters with the police.
But the fact is, at the moment, we have 3,500 people killed. And you yourself alluded to just then that perhaps some of them weren't legitimate targets.
You know, there is no crime at all when you threaten criminals with death. In my country, at least, there is no law which says I cannot threaten criminals. And that was the favorite, well, of course, the cliche that they used. It became a cliche over time. And when I was president, I said, we have 3 million, according to PDEA, 3 million drug addicts. Not counting mine, because it's still going on. So I said, if we do not interdict this problem, the next generation will be having a serious problem. And I announced that, again, same. You destroy my country, I'll kill you. And it's a legitimate thing. If you destroy our young children, I will kill you. That is a very correct statement. There is nothing wrong in trying to preserve the interest of the next generation. That 3 million addicts, it's not, they are not a residence of one compact area or contiguous place. They're spread all over the country. And by the sheer number, because if you are a user, you must push. Unless you are the son of a billionaire, or because you have to sustain your addiction by getting another financier for you. And then the next financier will have to get a new victim to finance it. That's how it became. That is how drugs is spread. But it was not until I became president that the widespread and the magnitude of the problem became really a serious issue.
So what about the children and the innocent people who have been killed?
Well, that is bad.
So will those cases be investigated?
Yes,
Do you promise that?
Of course. But let me tell you, this is the law of my land. Here is a police. Here is a gangster. He's armed with an M16. The gangster only a pistol. But when they meet, they exchange fire. With the police with an M16, it's one burst, and hits 1,000 people there, and they die. There's no criminal liability. It could not be negligence because you have to save your life. It could not be recklessness because you have to defend yourself. Just like when the United States and the rest of the country, when you bomb a village, you intend to kill the militants, but you kill in the process the children there. It's only how it is explained, and we are, people judge best when they condemn. So they would always place you in a bad light. But the situation does not call for that. And that explains the reason why, until now, I have yet to hear an apology for those who have in Vietnam, in Afghanistan. Never mind about the militants, kill them. But then, in the process, 2 families, hospital, it is collateral damage. Then why is it is a collateral damage to the West, and to us, it is murder?
You went to law school.
Yes.
You worked hard to be part of the legal system. You are a lawyer by profession.
Correct.
And you were a prosecutor for many years.
Yes.
Do you still believe in the country's judicial system?
Like now, I should believe in the system because I will guarantee this time that the law is break. There are judges here in Manila, more than 1,000 cases, no conviction at all of a drug case. That is where money flows, maybe savagery, threatening people on both sides. That is how it is played here. That's why we have this miserable thing about the drug problem now.
But do you acknowledge that you have encouraged vigilante killings?
No, I said I will kill you. If I encourage, fine.
Yes, but the point is that people can get away with murder right now, and you know that some of the killings are not legitimate.
Well,
so do you think that there might be cases of people settling old scores out there and disguising them as the war on drugs?
I do not play with conjectures. I do not make assumptions. I just say what I should be saying as a president and as a mayor. Now, if the criminals there are killed by the thousands, that's not my problem. My problem is how to take care of the law-abiding, God-fearing young persons of this republic because they have our resources. Strictly speaking, you cannot find any redeeming factor in being, the criminals there. They are there for what? They are there for just like the cartel in Mexico. If you have read Ian Grillo, this is how the cookie crumbles. Exactly. So when I will kill you because I'm the mayor, I'm the president. Now, if vigilante would take over, but, I cannot control it. I cannot be God and control everything. Okay, you just kill these guys or you wait for the courts to do that.
Well, you can encourage good policing and you can encourage justice
Yes.
and trust in the judicial system.
Correct. But when I was campaigning as a president, the drug problem was already reaching by the millions. Well, 3 million is 3 million. Now, during my time, we have started to count. We are nearing now the 800 mark, 800,000. By the year ends, I would have about also 1 million. So I have 4 million drug addicts. Do you think that's an easy number?
No. So why not put all the energy into rehabilitation?
Where do you find it?
Reforming healthcare.
Okay. Can we cut this for a while? I'll just have to. Pakikita, pakihanap yung newspaper kahapon.
He wants to show you the newspaper.
Oh, sure, no problem.
So you were saying about this facility, sir. What is this about?
This is a rehab facility built by somebody. This is what they cried at. You know, Duterte, he should have built rehab houses instead of killing the criminals, the drug lords. You know, this would cost millions. I entered the presidency of the Republic of the Philippines midterm. There is nothing at all left in that budget for this year, which was prepared by my predecessor, which was also prepared the other year to be implemented this year. The implementation does not contain any money. Because nobody, until I became president of this country, nobody realized how widespread, how dimensional it was for us.
Sir, in the past, during the campaign and weeks into your presidency, you have repeatedly said that you have no regard for human rights. But human rights is actually part of the Constitution. And as head of state, it is also part your duty to uphold the Constitution. How does that connect?
I would rather intimidate and strike fear in the hearts of the criminals, just like what happened in Davao. When finally you can walk the streets, walk about in the streets at night, and you can eat anywhere at any time, and nobody would bother you. It's happening in Davao. Davao City is in the midst of Mindanao, a troubled land. But I can assure you, as plenty of people have been there, it's a destination for conventions and conferences international. It's always selected. So it's booming. It is a little bit rich than the others. Why? Because we can live our lives normally. And of course, business can thrive. So that when I said, I do not care about what the human rights guys say. I have a duty to preserve the generation. If it involves human rights, I don't give a shit. I have to strike fear because I said, the enemies of the states are out there to destroy the children.
Are you not worried about possible ramifications in the future for you, a possible impeachment or being tried in the international court?
Good question. Before you can begin, you must determine that I have committed a crime in my country. That I have committed mass murders in my country and then charged me there. There can be no ramifications when I say that I will kill you if you destroy my land. It's a legitimate statement of any general, of any wartime president, of any tribal leader to say those things. Of course, you said there can be consequences. But I am not worried about this thing. I do not make any projections. How many vigilante killings? Well, if you compare the 4 million to the 3,000, minus legitimate encounters between the law enforcers and the criminals, give or take even a half of it. So what is it to the lives already lost? I have 4 million addicts to take care of. And I have been criticized and would say, well, why don't just, Duterte build rehab centers and just place them there? Why not? Why do you have to kill him? Look, I am a midterm president in the sense that I entered this year the presidency, only this year. The budget for this year was prepared by my predecessor, so Aquino. And it binds me because it would last until December. Nowhere in this budget provides enough money to build even 2 buildings of rehab structures. It's all what is left of my government now after the election It's just enough for the MOE, maintenance and all.
So you're saying, sir,
No capital outlays.
the budget of President Aquino for this year, the last 6 months, does not include any rehabilitation?
Because the problem was there, but there was nobody minding the store. I was the only mayor brave enough to say those things. So my city, got the benefits of a peaceful place where you can live, where you can eat, work safely. But the others, we did not know. But they allowed so many administrations to flourish. And it was not until I became president that we realized that there were already, according to at the time to General Santiago of the PDEA, Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, that there are already 3 million addicts. So never mind my counting, because I'm still counting up to the end of the year.
Are you in favor of medicinal marijuana?
Yes, but that is a very long process. It has to be something like being officially certified by the Food and Drugs of the Philippines, and it must have this qualifying, activity where it's being used to find out if it's really medicinal or if it can do something good for the body.
But you'd consider it? You'd consider it, the legalization of it, for example?
I'm not the authority for that. It's the Food and Drug Administration which says that it's good.
Okay.
If it is certified by the government that it's good, fine, no problem.
I don't think anyone could deny, doesn't matter how controversial it is, that you've delivered on your election campaign promise to crack down on drugs. Yeah. One thing you haven't delivered on yet is your promise to ride a jet ski out to the disputed territory in the South China Sea and plant the Philippine flag on there. Now, many people, many voters, I assume, took that as a sign that you were going to be tough on China in that disputed territory in the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea, but you haven't been. Why?
Do you really think that I would go there riding? I don't even own a jet.
No, I don't. But people perceived that as a sign that you were going to get tough with China.
It was a hyperbole. Literally, it's you cannot expect me to ride. I don't even know how to swim. And if it overturns, then you lose a president along the way.
So why did you say that then? What were you referring to?
Hyperbole. To stress a point that we will not give up anything there.
But your statements recently tend to indicate that you are willing to give up some territory there.
No, it doesn't. Nobody's going to give up the judgment that it's in our favor. I cannot give it up. Nobody can give it up. Nobody in the Constitution allows anybody to give it up. Even the president cannot give it up. Those are our entitlements. This is an island. Every country in this world is given its own fish pond. That's your fish pond where you get the fish, the shells, and everything. You cannot give it up. You can only negotiate to prevent war. Remember that okay, I'll push your logic to this logical conclusion. We have this judgment, right? Two things. I can go into a rage because it's being occupied, but remember, it is not a sovereignty that is there. It's the entitlement attached to it is the sovereignty. Okay? The other is to go into a rage and fight, and the other is to talk. What do you think will happen to my country if I choose to go to war? I fight alone? Or I would call upon the other countries to help me? Who? Who would die for my country except us? So we can only talk. And that's why they invited me for talks. I will go. But I will go with this paper.
A blank sheet
Mr.
of paper.
President, yeah, I said, this is the award. I cannot go out beyond the boundaries of this paper. Let's talk. Let's begin here.
The Philippines won a landmark case against China, unprecedented in recent history, a smaller country standing up to a superpower. It declared the 9-dash claim of China invalid. Now, you're going to China, and you've mentioned previously, you said that you will not insist on the position of the Philippines on the Scarborough Shoal. Now, your critics are questioning why it seems you're going to China and negotiating from a position of weakness rather than of strength.
It would be arrogant to me to go there and say, I'm going there to fight for this and that. You know, there's much to be learned in history, and even in the books, and the way the Orientals places the words in his mouth, especially the Chinese. You have to go there with a little bit of courtesy. But when you are already in front of each other, then I said, this is it. We do not go. What would be the purpose in going there without this? For what?
But you can guarantee to the Philippine people that you are not going to sign away or give up hope or give up fighting for the Spratlys Scarborough Shoal.
Yes, in the first
they are
place,
Philippine territory.
Nobody but nobody, not even the president of this country, can give up the claim. You are not allowed to do that. That is one sure way of going to impeachment.
But can you guarantee that you will fight to maintain
of course.
those?
Nobody's going to give up anything there. I said, if the Constitution does not allow you, then who can? Then not even your mouth. That's how it is.
What deals are you hoping to do when you go to China?
Well, maybe we talk about, I would know, or I would not know the wherewithal, so where we would start. Then the judgmental thing would come into fore. Then some other matters about trade and commerce. And if there's any arrangement, if we want to come to a happy compromise, then we can talk about entitlements of the China Sea. But really, I cannot predict on any solid thing to talk about until I'm there. So I am not there until I am there.
Will you discuss the war on drugs? Because records show that a lot of the drugs coming into the Philippines are coming from China.
They understand it. That's why they'd like to help. But you know, China now is a democracy. I mean, the communist is just something which is just a thing to go by, to keep control. But everything there is free enterprise.
Having said that, Mr. President, you have clearly moved away from the United States. Why do you think it is necessary for the country to distance itself from its long-standing ally in Asia?
Just because I'm going to China doesn't mean to say that I'm moving away from the United States.
But you talked about pursuing a different paradigm.
What I'm saying is that please do not be too discourteous for us. Because if you think that we are bad, you are in a bad company, you're free to go. I mean, what kind of a friend are you that instead of following the normal process of due process for my country, when I was mayor, it was okay. But when I was a president, you should be careful. Because whether you like me or not, I may be insignificant to you, but I carry the burden of sovereignty. So if you begin to insult me in international fora without any going into a legal investigation, then you put to shame every Filipino out there.
So are you saying if the US had not publicly criticized the war on drugs, then relations would be normal now, as they have been for many decades?
Had America just followed the normal procedure of calling the attention of a country to a certain violation that would affect the laws of humanity, it could have just followed the due process, which is normally accorded to everybody by going to the United Nations, airing the grievance, if you may, for other people, then demanding that there should be an investigation. It should begin in the internal body of the United Nations, because we are, or the Philippines is, a member of the United Nations.
So if they had done that, relations would be normal now, military ties would be normal?
I said this Orientalist, you just be courteous. We're not used to being bamboozled and just, Mr. Duterte, you know that the serious violations could result in the cutting of AIDS. That is not acceptable to us, actually. We call it in our dialect, boy boy, and in the Tagalog, it's
Sumbat.
you give things to them and say, oh, I gave you these things, and you're not doing what I want. That is a very serious mistake.
So there have been some contradictory statements lately about military relations in particular between the Philippines and the US, contradictory from you and some other members of your government. Can we just clear up a couple of things?
Yes.
Will military ties, military exercises with the US end now?
It ends now.
Okay. Will you walk away from the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement that was signed by your predecessor
I
2
may,
years ago?
upon a review with the military authorities.
How are you feeling now? Which way are you leaning?
They should know my sentiment.
What
it would depend on the advice of the military.
What is your sentiment?
But they know my sentiment. Everybody knows my sentiment. You know my sentiment.
That you will end that?
Yes, because I said if I'm in a bad company, then why bear with me?
So that's without finality yet, basically, you're saying?
I said I have to consult the military.
You also have a mutual defense agreement, mutual defense treaty that was signed back in 1951. Will you walk away from that?
I cannot abrogate it. Now, let me ask you this question. And tell me frankly, really. Is there a need for me to maintain military ties with anybody? And even with Africa and Somalia and all? Now, let me ask this question. Having said that, if there is really a third world war, where all the ICBMs and the Poseidons and the land air-based and in the skies, if it's going to be a third world, then everybody pushes its nuclear power. China, Russia, and America. Would there be enough time to talk about the third world war?
Maybe not, but your relations go far beyond things like that with the US. They go to disaster relief, things like that. Aren't you putting all of that at risk?
I do not think they will be there for us.
But they were at Typhoon Haiyan just a few years ago.
Oh, what?
Typhoon Haiyan.
That's not a war. And if they want, they could have, you can forgo with it. Other nations will come. Or we will die. Double the number. And so, Haiyan is just a creation of the climate change, which the industrial countries also created, helped grow. You know, in terms of gas emissions, we are here. We would like to reach this limit, but we say, oh no, it's a ratio and proportion along the way. Look, stupid, you have reached the heights of industrialization. All these years, you're spewing all the gas, carbon and everything, footprints. We had little or had nothing, little to do with it. Now we would like to reach where you are now. But also they're controlled because. So, and until the end of the world, it's going to be always like that. So that is how interest countries really work. They come as, you go to our place in Paris, or we go to Canada or South America, then we'll discuss about it. But, you know, we have this kind. We would like to help you, but do not try to catch up with us and overtake us, because it would contribute so much carbon emission. and who's responsible for the climate? Who's responsible for Hainan? Who's responsible for the monsters of tornadoes? And it's not just those countries. We had nothing to do with it.
Hang on, Mr. President.
Yes.
Filipinos love America. Historically, it's the strongest ally in Asia. If you distance yourself from it, do you not worry that it will be an unpopular decision among your people?
In the first place, had they not been here in the Philippines, there would have been no Second World War for us. The Manila battle killed about, they say, 200,000 people. The enemies came because they were there also in the first place. Matter of fact, they stayed here for 50 years, and that is why the enemies came, because they know that they are here. Imagine the Philippines without an American. Would have the Japanese sent so many battalions and their imperial armies to occupy this island?
Do you think it would be better off?
Well, if you go back in time, what would be the sense of sending you, unless you want to occupy the whole world?
Incidentally, the world is watching the United States at the moment with the election campaign that is going on there. Who would you rather work with in the White House, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
You asked me after this because I said I'm the president of a sovereign state. We are not supposed to say something about politics there. Unlike the ambassador of America, when he was asked a question about in a speech of mine about a slur of women, about women, it was not. It was a narration of an event which actually happened. And that is why I said, you're a journalist, you can check it out.
So you're saying...
I said those words in anger when I saw the women dead and raped.
So you would not reveal now who you'd rather collaborate with between Clinton and Trump?
I have my
preferences.
Preferences. Of course, it's obvious to you who she or who he. Be careful with the she and the he.
You're quite a controversial figure. In fact, possibly currently the most controversial figure globally right now. You've cursed Obama. You've told the EU and the United Nations basically to, you said, go to hell. Do you think, though, and a lot of people are quite shocked over such statements, do you think, though, that you have effectively performed your duty as the country's top diplomat?
Yes. I'll tell you the secret why. Why? My behavior? Because I was not given a chance to explain. And if I did explain, nobody was hearing me. And the lies that they started about this thing about extrajudicial killing kept on piling up. I was boxed in. I could read it every day. And you know, there are Filipinos who may or may not agree with them. And so they're calling, why don't you answer? And I kept on answering, but nobody was explaining. Even the local newspapers. What would be my defense? To call their attention. Except to say BS. Now, when I said BS, everybody was interested now. So, what is it? Insult can be a defense. Insult can be a defense. I mean to say mine. So, it was only when I began to spew out cuss words, epithets, curses, that they oh, why is this guy? This guy is something new. He's uncivilized and cocked and everything. Fine. You can call me everything. Listen to what I'm saying now. So, I got this chance with everybody. After this, there's another one, and there's another one.
Do you agree with your spokesperson that everything you say is subject to creative interpretation? Don't you mean what you say?
You know, you're from here. You know that the usual connotation of putang ina, it's a cuss word. It's a slang, actually. Slang, it's the usual, our language, son of a bitch. The ladies would say it, salamagan, or son of a gun. It is never interpreted in a phrase in English called son of a whore. You can ask anybody, in the media and anywhere, we never connotate the son of a bitch with the son of a whore.
But don't you think
the word whore is quite terrible?
But don't you think the role of a president when you're addressing another president of another country, that there's a certain level of language, certain level of behavior that is expected?
Yes, I tried to answer Obama, but my answers never got to be published. I could not even hear my own words, my explanation. Even
well, you told him to go to hell.
Yes, because that is the time now that he would hear me, my explanation. Nobody was publishing it even here. And I said that was a very discourteous thing. I said, however significant I may appear to you, please do not do that because I'm a president of a country.
I've got to ask this. You have publicly criticized the United States for its atrocities it committed during the First American War in the early 1900s. Those atrocities were committed against Moro Muslims in the southern Philippines. Now, but your critics are questioning why you have become generally silent on far bigger atrocities committed most recently by the dictatorial regime of former President Ferdinand Marcos.
It's a political issue which is really there already. No need to repeat it all over again every day, because if there's no reason to dwell on it and says, oh, why are you talking about Marcos? We were talking here about Obama. So it's already there. In a sense, I was also there that night.
They think the reason why you have not mentioned it is because you're allied with the Marcos family here.
No, it's politics. All is politics. If they want to support me, and they did during the last election, it's fine. It's in the numbers. But I do not have to repeat the EDSA revolution every day before breakfast and say it with my prayers.
You have said that former President Ferdinand Marcos was the best president of the Philippines, and yet he ruled with an iron fist. He was a dictator. Thousands of people were killed.
His talent, his ability has nothing to do with his desire to perpetuate himself.
Okay, but
that's another thing. That's another thing. I'm referring to the brain work of a person.
what if you become frustrated by the democratic processes in this country, by the bureaucracy in trying to get things done democratically? Will you consider returning this country to a dictatorship?
Interesting, really, actually. Now, you see what's happening now. How many hours did it take to travel, Edsa?
To travel here?
Yeah. How many hours did it take you to travel?
It can take hours.
They're giving me emergency powers. I think no need to go into a martial law thing. I have sensed that Congress is also quite helpful in the sense that they're considering to give me emergency powers. Minus the bidding, minus all you have to do is say, okay, you're a great company, you have a track record. It's something like that.
And what's the next step after that, though?
Well, the next step is when it says it's only good for 200 days, it's good for 200 days. Then you stop it. Then you go back to the bidding. What do you mean? I cannot fathom your question, but would be something
would
like
you?
this. If this country would remain moribund.
If you get frustrated with how the long democratic process, the long legal process of getting things done, when you only have 6 years, would you?
I think it's really pathetic because politics and all, but our government is so crafted in a way that everybody has got to have a cake and eat it too.
You are a very controversial figure. Some of your methods are seen as almost already authoritarian. A lot of people are getting nervous, and people would like to know, where are you taking this country?
I don't, for the life of me, I have yet to remember the thing that I did that would indicate that I have the traces of being dictatorial. On day one, well, the curses and the slang, the epithets, but I cannot remember of an incident here, an event which would indicate at the very least that I have traces of being tends to be dictatorial. Let's just put it that way. I've always been a good boy, a holy man in this thing.
Well, we're just over 100 days into your presidency now. You've got just under 6 years left in your term. From a personal point of view, the stresses of the job, the criticism, the long hours, how do you think you're going to handle the next 6 years at the age of 71?
I was at the hospital last night. So I had these rashes, I don't know where it came from. I was itching all over. There was a program yesterday and I could not help scratching my body. I get to be to have more issues with my little ones, rashes and everything. Yesterday, I was all red inside and I could hardly stop myself from scratching everywhere. It's actually, it contributes a lot to a person's the comfort zone, where you feel that when you work at night, you feel good, you sleep feeling good, wake up. Those are the things which, those are the luxuries which is not available here. But you have to be here because this is the seat of power.
How would you like to be remembered as president? What would be your legacy? What would you like it to be?
Now I just say that Rodrigo Duterte, he tried his best.
All right, Mr. President, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you.